The time is 11:30 hours. Today, the 28th of March, year of the Lord 2025. May I simply welcome you all to Raven's Country Club, hosts of this year's 27th Annual General Meeting of the Copperbelt Energy Corporation, PLC. As is our custom at these meetings and in recognition of our national status as a Christian nation, I would like to invite everyone to be upstanding for a word of prayer. And in the end of the prayer, I'll ask that you continue standing as we sing the national anthem.
Let's pray, shall we? Our God and our Father in heaven, we bow our heads this morning in reverence to your holy name. We thank you, Jehovah, for bringing us together as a CEC family of shareholders. We give praise and honor to your name. And now, Lord, we want to commit this meeting in your hands. We pray for success. We pray, Jehovah, for oneness in everything that shall be done. We also pray for the board and management that, Lord, even as they continue to superintend over the affairs of this great company, CEC, Master, may you grant them much wisdom, supernatural wisdom. Keep them in good health, in Jesus' name. We now commit the rest of the day and the activities lined up in your hands. All this we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
The national anthem. Thank you. You may take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, may I just extend a hand of warm welcome to all of you, including members that are joining us virtually, this being a hybrid meeting where we are meeting physically as well as virtually. Good start to the year, good rains. We can only thank the good Lord, and we do look forward to a bumper harvest this year, as well as an improvement to the load shedding challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring the following announcements before your hearing. The first one is on housekeeping. CEC continues to place great priority on issues of occupational health and safety. And so as we gather in this manner, please just take a moment to ensure that you look around you, just to make sure that, especially your feet, you don't have any loose cables that could possibly obstruct your way in the unlikely event that it becomes necessary to evacuate this room on account of any emergency that could be there. So please take this time to just make sure you don't have any obstacles, any obstructions that could impede your ease of movement. In terms of our safety or emergency assembly point, in the likely event that we need to evacuate from this room, we have 3 glass doors that are not locked. They are not open, but they are not locked, meaning that they can easily be opened. And we are going to leave this room at the guidance of our safety champions or marshals, and we are all going to gather down on the lawn on that side. So that includes the top table as well. You are going to be able to walk through that door there, and we will gather over there. Of course, we assure you that we are all going to be safe throughout our meeting today. In terms of our conveniences, both the gents as well as the ladies are located in the adjacent corridor to my right. That will be to your left, but to my right in the corridor here. The door that is somewhere in the middle of the hall is inaccessible on account of the cabling that is at the bottom of the door, meaning that should you need to use the bathroom, you are going to have to exit the hall, and you go around like this, and you will find the entrance down into the corridor, and you should be able to locate the bathrooms at somewhere in the middle of the corridor. That is to do with our conveniences. Allow me now to bring registration announcements. If you are a shareholder, please ensure that you have registered your presence at the registration desk. Please note that any clarifications or any queries relating to individual shareholder concerns and any updates on shareholder information will be handled at the investor relations desk after this meeting. It is important that shareholder details such as your addresses and bank account details are up to date to avoid any delays in receiving your dividend payments and receipt of documents from the company. We advise that you do not attend to these issues during the time of the meeting so that then there's no disruption to the flow of the meeting. Additionally, should you have a proxy form in your possession which was not earlier emailed or not submitted at the registration desk, please hand it over to the usher that is nearest to you. We have ushers who are at hand to assist you, and so please, if you do have that proxy form, do hand it over to the usher that is next to you. Privileged and honored again this year to host this meeting. I'm your Director of Programs. My name is Gilbert H. Simagoloi, and I will accompany you today up until the close of the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the singular honor and the privilege to invite to the mic the Chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Copperbelt Energy Corporation PLC, Mr. London Mwafulilwa, to now come to the mic and to commence the deliberations of this meeting.
Thank you. I now call the meeting to order and welcome all shareholders that have joined virtually and shareholders that are physically present to the 27th Annual General Meeting of the Copperbelt Energy Corporation PLC. Good morning. Dear shareholders, 2024 was another year of remarkable performance from the Copperbelt Energy Corporation, despite the challenges of power availability that characterize the energy sector in the region. This year, we are pleased to present the group's first integrated report reflecting our commitment to transparency, accountability, and value creation. This report aims to offer deeper insights into how we are integrating sustainability in our decision-making processes and reinforce our dedication to long-term responsible growth. From the results presented in the report, as you will hear from the presentations to be made today, we remain confident in our strategic direction and the opportunities ahead. As a board, we will continue to leverage the effective governance structures in place to oversee strategic investments, risk management, and employee welfare. As we deliberate this morning, I encourage your full participation and interaction. While the AGM is viewed as the main point of engagement, we desire to have ongoing engagements with you. Our management team and investor relations team are at your disposal to support you and engage with you throughout the year. Thank you for your continued trust in the board and the management team of CEC to deliver value to you. On behalf of the board and also on behalf of management, we look forward to a very fruitful meeting, and please do engage at all levels. You are most welcome. Dear shareholders, I wish to introduce the directors of the board who are present at the meeting physically. Apart from myself, we have Dr. Patrick Nkanza, the Vice Chairman of the board. We have Mr. Ronald Tamale, Mr. Joe Mansach Sanga, Ms. Priska Chikwashi, Mr. Owen Slavwe, the Director and Managing Director of the company, Mr. Mtale Mukuka, the Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Julia Chaila, the Chief Legal Counsel and Company Secretary. In attendance, virtually, are Madam or Miss Mukwandi Chibesakunda, Mr. Sianga Malumo, and Mr. Oak Lont. We have received apologies from Director Hastings Mutini and Director Arnold Simwawa. Also, in attendance, I've already alluded to the management team that are in front. We have the management team that are seated in the front row. Management team, may I ask you to just rise? Thank you. In attendance are our external auditors, Messrs. KPMG, who have been represented here by Mr. Chelo Hamwele. Morning. I'll now ask the Company Secretary to confirm if we do have a quorum for the meeting.
Dear shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending the 27th Annual General Meeting of CEC. I'm in receipt of a number of proxies here with me, and I wish to inform you that I have received the following proxies representing the principal shareholders of the company. These are Mr. Rona Tamale, who is authorized to act on behalf of Aurora UK Acquisition Co. PTA Limited, who has already been introduced. Mr. Stumbeko Mubano, who's authorized to act on behalf of ZCCM Investment Holding PLC. He is in attendance, but in attendance virtually. And Mr. Sianga Malumo, who's authorized to act on behalf of Zambia Energy Corporation Island Limited, also present, but present virtually. I will not read out the remainder of the proxies. However, these will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. I wish to advise that the quorum of this AGM is 2 members holding between them a majority in nominal value of the issued ordinary shares of the company present in the meeting in person or by proxy. As there are more than 2 members present of a majority in the nominal value of the issued ordinary shares of the company, I can confirm that the necessary quorum has been met. Shareholders, the notice convening the meeting and the agenda has been in your hands within the period prescribed by the Articles of Association of the company, which is 21 days. The notice and agenda for the AGM are also on the CEC website and can also be found on page 240 of this integrated annual report. With your permission, shareholders, I'll take both the notice and agenda as read. I'll hand you back to the chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. The necessary quorum having been made, we will now proceed with the agenda for the meeting. Before we proceed with the resolutions for this AGM and vote on them, I'll ask COPSAVE Zambia, who will undertake the voting process, to give instructions and explain the voting details.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, shareholders. I will take you through some few housekeeping issues in terms of the voting process. So allow me to start with the shareholders who have joined virtually, who have logged in through the electronic platform. So for shareholders who are currently on the electronic platform, the voting process is very simple. The same platform that you are currently on is the same platform that you use for voting. For those members who might have navigated to the Zoom platform, if you go back to your browser, and at the top of your browser you see an icon written EAGM, the moment you click it, it will take you back to the ballot. So the ballot will have resolution 6 resolutions, 1 up to 6. So to vote, you simply click the resolution and exercise your vote. You do this to all the resolutions. Ensure that you vote for all the resolutions. You need to scroll down to the last resolution, which is number 6. So that's the voting process for those that have joined virtually. Those that are here, it's a very simple process as well. As you're coming through, you were encouraged to register. That will introduce you into the voting platform, and you were given a token. If you didn't do this process, we encourage you to see our registration team so that they can introduce you into the system to unlock the capabilities for you to vote. And you will also advise that you need to use your phone. If you've got a smartphone and you have already downloaded a COPSAVE application, the voting process is simple. You simply need to open that application, go to an orange icon, which is at the bottom of that application that's written AGM. Click on it, and then enter the token that's written on the slip you were given outside. For those shareholders who do not have the same smartphones, don't fret. There are phones that you can also utilize, so our team will come to you in time when times of voting is opened. You just simply need to raise your hand. You wait to be guided by the chair, and then the team will come to you to assist you. So these are the simple voting process. But throughout the meeting, feel free to utilize the team that is here. For those that have joined online, feel free to utilize the chat function so that we can assist you. I thank you. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Before you take your seat, Is that clear with everyone? If there are any queries, you know where COPSEV are, you can approach and get the clarification as well as from the desk outside. Thank you. I wish to inform you that the vote on all resolutions will be taken by poll. The resolutions will be passed as ordinary resolutions, which can be passed by a simple majority representing 50% of the voting rights attached to the shares and entitled to vote at this annual general meeting. We'll proceed to the first resolution on the agenda, which is to approve the minutes of the annual general meeting that was held on Thursday, 28th March 2024. We'll begin with the corrections to the minutes and proceed page by page in reviewing them. For the ease of reference, those who have the physical copies, these are on pages 206 to 208 of the integrated annual report. Shall we proceed to the corrections? Are there any corrections on page 206? That is noted. It's not Mr. Lusungu Muntali, it's Miss Lusungu Muntali. Thank you. Those corrections will proceed also to page 207, the same correction. Any other corrections on 206? On page 207? Corrections on page 208. On page 209. On page 210. To 11, to 12, page 213 and 214, (215) and 216. And finally, page 217 and 218. With the one correction noted, I call upon any member present to make a proposal for the approval of the minutes of the annual general meeting that was held on the 28th of March, 2024. And then I also call upon any other member to second the proposal. Do we have a proposer?
I propose Mavis Kasongo Chisanga, shareholder.
Seconder?
Davis Friday, my shareholder.
Thank you. Members can now proceed to vote on resolution number 1, that is on the adoption of the minutes of the last AGM. You have 3 minutes in which to execute your vote before we proceed. You can continue with the voting process if you haven't completed. If you have completed, we are now moving on as you continue that process. Are there any matters arising from the minutes? Again, we will proceed page by page. Page 206 and 207. Any matters arising on page 208. Any matter arising on page 209. Any matter arising on page 210. And finally, are there any matters arising on page 211? Thank you, members. We'll now move on to Resolution 2. The second resolution on the agenda is to receive the director's report and the financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2024, together with a report of the auditors of the company. We'll begin with a presentation from Mr. Owen Slavwe, the Chief Executive Officer, who will make a presentation on the overview of the CEC business during 2024. This will be followed by a presentation from the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Mutale Mukuka, on the financials for the year ended 31st December 2024. The auditor's report will follow after the two presentations.
Shareholders, good afternoon, and welcome to this year's AGM. I will start with my discussion of the company's performance highlights for 2024. I think those of us who live in Zambia do not need to be told about the power situation in the country. However, it's worth a comment. Okay, thank you. I think just to make it easier for you to follow the presentation, I was just being shown how the technology works. So, as I was saying, the situation at the moment in terms of the power supply is obviously quite familiar to most of you. Some of you are experiencing this firsthand based on the drought situation that the country experienced in the 2023-2024 rainy season. So the country ended up with a power supply deficit, and that power supply deficit, as I said, has been felt by all customer categories, and in particular for the mining customers, we've had to import around 40% of their power requirements, and that situation is obviously continuing. And when we import, obviously this power comes at a high price, and therefore we need to put in place a mechanism that allows for passing of those high costs. So we did that in the course of 2024, and I'm pleased to say, based on those arrangements, the mines have been able to get their full power requirements. And as a company, we'll obviously continue to make sure that we address all the requirements of our customers. When you look at this year, actually starting end of last year, we did obviously see a huge improvement in terms of how much rain the country did receive. And whereas we are hoping that the situation will improve, I think at the moment we can't exactly say how much improvement we are going to see, but we do expect some level of improvement. But that's something that I think we'll get to understand better as the year unfolds. The other highlight, just talking about the business environment, that I want to focus on is something that we've been talking about for a while now, which is the open access regime that we've moved to as a country. This is no longer something that is being considered. This actually is now under implementation. So a statutory instrument was passed to adopt the open access, and a migration has been agreed. So there is a phased approach in terms of the transition that has been agreed, and this is playing out as we speak. From a CEC perspective, we're obviously going through that as a company. We've developed a plan to ensure that the company obviously aligns its operations with the open access. I also want to just point out on the debt situation, particularly that I'm talking about the Zambian environment. We are still owed $30 million by KCM. I think some of you may have seen stories running in the papers. I obviously won't talk much about this because this is an issue that is still in the courts, and I think suffice to say this is something that we are keen to resolve, and hopefully sooner or later we'll get to a conclusion of that matter. I'll move on to my next slide, and let me just make sure this moves as well. Okay, great. So I just want to talk briefly about our performance with respect to HSES. And this is a very important integral part of our business. We involved in a business that needs to be run as safely as possible, but also as a company we've adopted the sustainability standards, and therefore we need to carry out our business in a way that does not harm the environment, in a way that contributes to the well-being of all stakeholders, our employees, the communities where we operate, but also we contribute to the overall well-being of the country from a perspective of the economy. So in that area, we are quite happy as a business that we continue to make progress. Our safety performance was great for the year 2024. Like anything else, there are obviously areas where we still need to improve, and I think every time we come to you as our shareholders, one of the things that we talk about where we need to make improvements is road accidents. Again, that remains an area where a lot of work still needs to be done. I mean, our business involves moving around, going to different substations, different areas. One of the important assets that we have is obviously the vehicle assets. And as we drive around, we do get involved in mishaps. And so we continue to work on how we can minimize that. If we can get that to zero, that's really the ideal situation that we aim for. In terms of occupational health, again, that's an area of focus for us to just make sure that employees' wellness, and in terms of just ensuring that employees, when they come to work, they do their work safely and go back to their families as safely as possible. I did talk about the environment and some of the things that we are doing. We are obviously happy as we advance our sustainability agenda through various programs, and key of these programs is our investments in renewables and the carbon offsets that we are driving. So you'll see that in 2024, we did increase that level of carbon offsets by 50%. which I think is huge. And so we'll continue to push that side of things as we go forward. Let me move and just talk about our sales. Okay, so as you know, our business has 3 critical areas. As 3 critical areas, I'm getting some support, thank you. As 3 critical areas, the first one, of course, being the power supply in Zambia. And the good thing is, in terms of our top 2 business activities or business segments, we're seeing very good growth in those 2 areas, which is the power supply to the mines in Zambia. We recorded a 5% growth in that business segment. That obviously is great because we're coming from the last 2 years where we weren't actually growing. If you look at 2023, we actually shrank in terms of the power supply to the mines in Zambia. So that has actually turned around, and we're beginning to see the growth. So that is good. When you look at our second largest business segment, which is the supply of power to the international market, at the moment the largest being the DRC market, the growth again in that market, when we look at last year, was actually phenomenal. So our 2 largest business segments are growing at impressive rates. And then when you look at domestic wheeling, obviously this is where we move power on behalf of others, particularly ZESCO, using our transmission infrastructure. That didn't do too well in 2024, and the main reason is obviously the load shedding that we're experiencing in Zambia as a result of the supply deficit that we have as a country. So overall, we did very well in terms of our sales, and in terms of where are we going, yes, we do expect that the investments that are happening in the mining sector, the drive by the government and the ambition to achieve the 3 million metric tons copper output per year should continue to drive the growth in the mining sector in Zambia. And obviously, as the country begins to get more and more water, and its main source of power, the hydro, as well as the diversification of sources through renewables and any other technologies, as that comes on board, we then expect that domestic wheeling and international wheeling as well should begin to grow. So whereas we don't expect that there will be growth in 2024 with respect to domestic wheeling, we expect a bit of a turnaround compared to what we saw last year. And then I think going into next year, we should begin to see growth in that area as well, aligned to the GDP growth that we are beginning to see as a country. Let's move on to the next slide. I just want to touch a little bit on the priorities that we are focused on as a business. There are obviously a number of priorities that come off of our strategy as a business in terms of where do we want our business to go, what are the focus areas that will drive the growth of this business. I've already talked about the growth that we're already seeing. And as we see this growth, what we obviously begin to see is that there is need for us to invest in expansion of infrastructure to drive this growth. And this is both in Zambia as well as the DRC. So as a company, we are focused in terms of, one, modernizing any aspects of our infrastructure which remains requiring that we do throw money at it. And this obviously is in various areas, whether it's just modernizing or trying to digitalize the infrastructure as well as the processes associated with that, but also in terms of just adding the capacity to connect new customers or grow the backbone to be able to supply more power. So what you will see as we go forward, you will see that the business is entering a phase where we need to invest both in reinvest both in our backbone as well as in what I would call the last mile to connect more customers. So there's a number of projects that as a company we are doing in that respect. From a renewables perspective, and I'll talk about this in detail as I speak about CEC renewables, there are obviously projects that we are doing in that respect as well. Now, one of the things that I've mentioned is obviously the need for the country to diversify and increase its power sources. And as a business, we've got a role to play in that. We can make significant contributions in that area. And so we're looking at a number of opportunities. So some of the opportunities, we are supporting others to do that in terms of the offtake. Other opportunities, we're obviously working with others to invest ourselves. And we think it's important for continued growth of the business as well as the economies of the region that those investments do come through. Moving on to the next slide. We are obviously very proud of the work that our subsidiary CEC Renewables has been doing, of course supported by CEC PLC. And last year we did commission our second large grid scale solar plant, which is the Itimpi one, that is 60 megawatts. I think it's probably one of the pictures that we are showing. I know the focus has been on the the one near here, which is the riverside, but we did commission the 60 megawatt Itimpi 1 solar project last year, and the two, that's Itimpi 1 as well as Riverside solar project, did perform quite well, and you see that in terms of output from the plants, there was a huge growth in 2024 from 51. Let me just get the numbers right. So we did increase to 154 gigawatt hours in 2024 in terms of output from our renewable projects. And as we go forward, there's a number of solar projects that we are doing. So we've got 3 solar projects at the moment. Our flagship and largest, which is the expansion of the Itimpi solar project. And in that respect, we are building a 136 megawatt solar project. We anticipate that that project should be commissioned before mid-2026. We're also working on a 25 megawatt, what we call Ganaton South solar project. And this project, we are hoping to begin construction within the next 3 months. And the last one that we're working on as part of our renewables project is a 12 megawatt solar project. We are very proud of this project in the sense that it's our first project, joint venture with one of our customers. We're hoping that we're going to roll out quite a number of similar projects with the other customers. So we've got our first joint venture with one of our customers. And as I say, we're looking forward to achieving a similar feat with our other customers. This obviously becomes important because these are captive plants, relatively easy to develop, and can be developed in close proximity to the load centers, and therefore they reduce the requirement for transmission, particularly the backbone infrastructure. So that is something that we'll continue to do as a business and indeed focus on. In terms of the operations of CEC Renewables, again, we're quite happy with the performance in that respect. I just talked about the growth that we are seeing in terms of their output, as well as if you look at the revenues of CEC Renewables, the CFO will touch on that. Again, a lot of good work is being done in that area. Alongside the investments, we do obviously need to make sure that we've got human capacity as well as the tools that are required to carry out the operations and maintenance of these plants. Now, as CEC, one of our strong areas has always been operations and maintenance. And so we've worked very hard to capacitate CEC Renewables, and we continue to partner with them in carrying out operations and maintenance of the solar plants, and to invest in modern tools required to manage these plants as well as we can. So this is an area of focus, and what we see is at some point these are services that we should be able to extend to other solar plants in the country. I also want to touch on our international business, which at the moment is mostly focused on DRC, but as we keep saying, we obviously keep looking at the rest of the region in terms of those opportunities. I think I did say that we saw phenomenal growth in 2024 with respect to that market, 70% growth in terms of the sales, and obviously that market has increased in terms of its contribution to the business, and therefore CEC DRC itself as well is being capacitated in terms of its human capital, in terms of processes and procedures at company level. And going forward, you obviously see that the business will engage a lot more the stakeholders in that market, be it the government, the regulator, other investors in the market, because that's important for our growth as we go forward. And again, because of this growth that we've seen, and it's not just CEC, it's also other investors in that market, there is need to invest in new infrastructure. And so again, you'll see us talking about some of the projects that we need for us to be able to drive the next phase of growth in that market. Sorry, I need some. Again, at operational level, it is important that we continue to improve the structure of our contracts, as well as just the way we manage those contracts. So we did a good job, I believe, in 2024 in terms of just growing the number of contracts that we have in that market. A number of them we've already signed, but there's also a number of them that we're still working on. But also, we commenced work to just improve the tenure of those contracts. Our business works well if we can acquire sort of medium to long-term contracts, because then that supports our continued investments in infrastructure. So that is work that will continue. We continue to improve the quality of service as well in that market. It's a bit of a challenging market in that the gap from a sort of supply point is obviously huge. And to give a good quality service, we need to make sure that the network itself is obviously set up for that, but the network itself is kind of struggling to meet the demand. So we obviously have to cooperate with others to see what investments are required, but there's still a huge gap in terms of getting to where that network should be. So that will remain an area of opportunity and challenge as well going forward. I think at this point, I'll invite the CFO to take us through a summary of the financial performance of the business. Thank you.
afternoon, shareholders. Okay. So we've sort of gotten a summary of the operational performance of the business for the year 2024. Now I'll talk to the key highlights, essentially just trying to translate the business into numbers. And the first slide that you see here, I think last year we did guide that one of the issues that we'll be pushing for is to try and diversify the business itself. Now, how do we diversify the business? We make sure that today we were highly concentrated, I think, on the Copperbelt as a region. We were concentrated on specific mines, and now we're trying to move away from very specific concentration from a mine perspective, from a customer perspective, from a regional perspective, and we try and have a more balanced business and more balanced sort of cash flows that come into the business. So on this slide, you see that on that pursuit, we moved the sort of DRC business in percentage terms from 26 to 42%. And that in itself diluted the Zambia business and the cash flows coming from Zambia. Now, what does it mean from a number point of view? In revenue, the business in DRC went up 131%. Now, that's phenomenal increase. I think the managing director did highlight to that. But tied to that, there are very specific strategic objectives that the business undertook, such as expanding the line into the DRC to allow for more transfer flows. There is more money that is going in those interconnectors to ensure that we continue to grow that business line. But I guess from a strategic perspective, it's not limited to DRC. Today we're talking DRC, but in the next couple of years we'll come through and probably will be talking of more markets that we are looking at. But all in all, what you see is what we would call a very good performance from a revenue perspective, an increase from $282 million to $547, out of which 131 came from the sort of DRC business, and the Zambia business went up by 12.7%. Now, if we try and flip the coin, you look at the other graphs on the other side, you see that we try to dissect the business and look at it from, on the previous slide. Yeah, we try to look at it from a business line perspective. Now, there are several business lines that we have. You know, sometimes we supply power to the local mines and local customers in Zambia. We use our infrastructure by allowing third parties to use our infrastructure, which we sort of charge for. But also we have this, what we call power trading or regional power sales. So you see that if you try to break that, again, we are sort of getting the right balance. The whole idea is that as we are growing as a business, we also are improving on the quality of the cash flows and ensure that the business is quite balanced as a whole. So on the next slide, we try to just look at the details. Say, these are the cash flows, this is the revenue. But on the next slide, we look at how is our gross profit from a procurement of power. Before, most of the power was sort of coming from very few generators. We've tried to diversify that as well. I think the managing director did highlight that most of the 40% of the Zambian power was made using imports from outside Zambia. Now that in itself, whereas Zambia had a problem, but in itself from a risk management perspective, then we are sort of diversifying our various sources. But also the investments that we are making in CEC renewables then introduces our own feed of power that we potentially can sell, whether it's selling in Zambia or selling outside Zambia. But tied to that, we are also making strategic investments to expand and grow our network for use by ourselves, but also to allow third parties to use that. And all of that, we expect that should help us to continue to grow the business. Now, from a revenue perspective, revenue in most instances is not guaranteed because it's dependent on how other businesses are doing. One of the things that we try to do, even in times when we are growing, is to ensure that we continue to contain the costs, because from a cost perspective, we know what cost structure we should have. So you see one of the graphs there showing that by and large, despite the business growing, ideally we need to grow the cost. We need to make sure that we have the right people, we are maintaining the infrastructure to the right service level, but overall we need to make sure that we contain the costs, because if we contain the costs, then we are improving on our profitability, which you see in the bottom slides there. Now, as we improve profitability, it means that we continue to create the value that is required to be shared by all our stakeholders, and more importantly, the value that is shared with our shareholders yourselves. So on the next slide, we try to give you a glimpse of the business from different perspectives. The first perspective is that we are essentially an asset-rich business. We are a capital-intensive business. And as a capital-intensive business, there are two things that we need to do. The first thing is that we need to invest and invest more in assets. And as we invest more, we then need to ensure that the return that we are getting on that investment continues to grow. Now, if we do that, then we are growing the pie. A couple of years ago, this is a business that had the profitability, as you saw on the last slide, of $50 million. We've doubled that, more or less doubling. We are looking at a number very close to 200. But that has come at a price of making very specific investments, as well as growing the business from a customer base and containing the costs. Because if you put all these together, this is really what is giving us the return that the business has sort of posted. The next issue, which is important to highlight here, is the fact that as part of our pursuit for growth, we need to ensure that we continue to partner with people who have the expertise, people who have the money, and people who can help us to deliver the value. So one of the things that happened over the last year or last 2 years is that we registered a green bond under the Lusaka Securities Exchange, which is regulated by SEC. And initially, we went to market and got $54 million. Towards the end of last year, we again had an oversubscription, and we facilitated the drawdown of an amount of $96 million. So when you look at the cash, part of the boost in the cash balances that we have there is $96 million, which is intended and earmarked for investment in the solar project, the 136 megawatt solar project at Itimpi, which the managing director referred to. Now, if we go to the next slide, we'll try and show you how we try to balance. Now, one of the biggest issues or the key decisions that management and the board have to do is to balance, to say, if the company has got one kwacha, how do you share that one kwacha between giving the shareholders a dividend? How do you share that between investing to maintain the existing infrastructure? And how much do you get from that one kwacha to ensure that we continue to grow the business by expanding? So you see there that there is a breakdown to just show you the capital allocation and the troubles that is there in trying to juggle the balls, saying we have certain amounts that should go to maintain the infrastructure, to maintain the existing infrastructure, because it's only after we've maintained the infrastructure that we can provide the service that we provide to the customers, and that's the only basis on which they will pay us. The second issue is we need to make sure that we are a growing business. Any business that is not growing, they say that it's dying. So on that vein, we need to make sure that we are making investments towards growth. And you see again that towards last year, we did make some investments on expansion. And a big part of that actually went into expansion because we believe that if we invest in the future, we'll have better cash flows and the shareholders will get more from dividends. But you also see that the shareholders were not neglected. Today, there was a 9% growth in the value of dividends that were declared in dollar terms. The next slide focuses more on why we exist to deliver value to our shareholders. And this being your meeting, we think that it's important that we interpret the financial results to just look at the value that is coming to you as our shareholders. One of the things is that we are continuing to grow in terms of posting what we call a return on equity, which is the book equity. One thing that is not here is to show again, a book entry of return in assets. Again, we are sort of pushing to try and grow that. Of course, spoken to the dividends, that last year there was a growth in dividend payouts of about 9%. But having said that, this is what the business has done in itself. And of course, we try to communicate our strategy so that we are more predictable as a business as it relates to you understanding us from that context. But we also have a separate independent market that gives you, potentially can give you value on the basis of how they're interpreting the business. And that's where we have the share price there. You will see that just 5 years ago, the CEC share price was down to 1.1 kwacha. We went up to 2.6 kwacha in 2021. And by the time we're getting to 2023, which we thought was a good reward by the market to the business, we were ending up at 7 kwacha. Last year, by the time we're ending the year, the market has further rewarded the company by pushing the share price to 13.84, making it the largest local company listed on our local exchange, the Lusaka Securities Exchange. So to that, we believe that the strategy that we are pursuing is paying off, and that will continue to try and provide the value that we are giving to you through the execution of the strategy. Now, overall, the next slide is just showing beyond the shareholders, we have other stakeholders. And who are the other stakeholders? It's the government, it's the lenders, it's our suppliers. Because with all these stakeholders that we have, we need to ensure that we allocate the financing that we have to all of them as we continue to grow. So this is just providing a sort of 5-year trend. Over the last 5 years, if we look at how much we generated, how much went to the suppliers, how much did the government get? So you see that on average, the government got 16% of what we generated, which was about $316 million. The shareholders, again, 237, and we've got the employees and the communities through CSR and other initiatives that we pursue in our pursuit for growing the business. I'll invite the MD to come back.
All right, good afternoon once more. One thing that is clear about business performance and it's probably unfortunate, is that past performance does not guarantee good results going forward. So what does that mean? All it means is that we need to work hard to try and engineer a great path from a performance perspective for the business. So going forward, what then should or is our priorities as a business? I did talk about the demand growth that we have seen and the fact that some of our infrastructure, if you're looking at the network, is almost filling up as a result of the demand growth that we've seen, which basically means this may begin to slow down our growth, and as we may not be able to connect new customers as fast as we want to do. So that obviously drives our thinking in terms of what should be our focus areas. And then when you look around, you see that our biggest challenge as an economy is to close the current supply deficit. But closing the current supply deficit in itself is not enough, because whereas we've had a supply deficit, it doesn't mean that new demand hasn't been coming up. So there's demand, new demand that has come up that we haven't been able to supply as a country. So what it means is that then we need to make sure that as we close the supply deficit, we also need to grow the generation capacity beyond what it is currently. So this then sort of defines the key areas of focus for us as a business. We want to continue with investments in renewables, because they do provide that diversity that we need in terms of our generation sources. That doesn't mean that we should stop looking at base loads, things like hydro, a mix of some thermal plants. We do continue to support that in terms of offtake, and where we can partner, we do partner. Where we can provide support with respect to evacuation infrastructure for the power, we are going to do that. So our key areas of focus going forward is obviously trying to accelerate renewable energy development. I did talk about the 3 plants that we expect to commission latest mid of next year. That 2025 should read as within 2026. That's an error. So that is a key focus area. And then, of course, we do a lot of work with respect to developing other projects, as I said, working with others. And then critical in terms of our strategy is how we expand the network, the transmission infrastructure, to make sure that does not slow the connection of new demand. Now, this speaks not just to our network, but also how we can participate to do this in sort of the broader economy, whether it's in Zambia, whether it's interconnectors, whether it's in DRC, whether it's in the broader SAP. Can we participate and support the creation of that capacity? So obviously we're looking at opportunities that open up that transmission infrastructure and make it possible for the sector, not just ourselves, but the rest of the sector, as well as the economy, to continue to grow. As we do this, we obviously need financial resources, and that's where we require expertise to make sure that the funding is being restructured in ways that it aligns with the plans that we have in terms of these projects. Are we going to put the debt on our balance sheet, for example? Are we going for project financing? So it's all those options, trying to optimize to just make sure that at the end of the day, our balance sheet is efficiently utilized. I've talked about the strengthening of the power supply, not just from our perspective, but from a sort of wider economy perspective. Again, that's an area where we'll be very active, either supporting others, partnering with others, or indeed doing our own generation. So those will constitute our priorities going forward, and we believe focusing on that should enable the company to deliver good results going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those presentations from the CEO and the CFO. I now request the auditors to make their report to the meeting. I invite Mr. Chelo Hamwele of Mrs. KPMG to make their presentation.
Good afternoon, shareholders. Our auditor's report is on pages 124 to 127 of the integrated report that you have. I will just, through the chair, read the opinion paragraph, because it's a lot of reading for the auditor's report. So I will start. Independent auditor's report to the shareholders of Copperbelt Energy Corporation PLC, report on the audit of the financial statements. Opinion: we have audited the consolidated and separate financial statements of Copperbelt Energy Corporation PLC, its subsidiary, group and company, set out on pages 128 to 191, which comprise the consolidated and separate statement of financial position as at 31st December 2024, and the consolidated and separate statements of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, consolidated and separate statement of changes in equity, consolidated and separate statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the financial statements, including a summary of material accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated and separate financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated and separate financial position of Copperbelt Energy Corporation PLC as of 31st December 2024, and its consolidated and separate financial performance, consolidated and separate cash flows for the year then, for the period then ended, in accordance with IFRS accounting standards as issued by an International Accounting Standards Board, and in compliance with the requirements of the Companies Act and the Securities Act of Zambia. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, shareholders.
Thank you. I now invite questions from the members on the three reports. That's the report of the CEO, CFO, and the auditors. The Director of Programs will assist us with the question and answer process.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now into the question and answer session based on the two reports that were presented, and we take cognizance that we do have the virtual audience as well as the physical one, and in order to manage the process, we'll alternate between the two. Please just take note that you have a maximum of 2 questions to ask, and as you do so, kindly indicate whether you are a member or not. As for members joining virtually, we ask that you post your question or comment onto the chat, and we are going to pick them from there, and they will be addressed. And as you do so, kindly ensure that you address your questions and comments to the chairperson. So we will then start with the members who are physically here. Our ushers, let's ensure that we have the mics ready so that we can just be very efficient. I see a hand already at the back there. So we'll have 3 people asking, a maximum of 3 questions, and then we'll request the top table, the chairperson and the directors, to be able to respond. And once we are done with that set of 3, then we'll move on to the chat. We'll attend to that. And after that, we'll get back to the members who are present here. I do note that we do have members also that are seated in the annex. We request that you come forward into the main hall, and you will be given a mic, and you will be able as well to participate in this process. So our ushers, let's just make sure that we are on hand to facilitate the process. There was a hand at the back there.
Thank you. My name is Dick Mweshi, a shareholder. My area of interest, we have focused so much on the development in DRC, yet DRC has its own issues. That is on the international scene. Locally, among our communities, as the pangs of load shedding hit us, slowly but sure, there is a resentment to say, why should the country continue exporting power? Don't we see a situation where the masses can rise against this company, thinking it is depriving its nationalities with a sale of power to foreign countries? I request a response.
My name is Shareholder Elias Munsha. I have a simple question on CEC renewables. I stand to be corrected. CEC renewables is a subsidiary of CEC. When it makes a profit, why benefit as a shareholder? I've asked this question because previously we had a subsidiary company known as CEC Liquid. This company performed well, but when it came to sharing of the profits, suddenly the company became a wounded buffalo. We were denied, we were not given anything. We were told, no, this is a subsidiary company, you have got nothing to do with that one, please.
Thank you. We go to the last in this series.
Good afternoon. My name is Lewis Mubanga. My main concern is...
Sorry, we didn't get your first name.
My name is Lewis Mubanga, shareholder. My main concern is we all urge about the new projects which were being initiated in order to make profit. I'd like to know how much did our company spend on those projects so that we'll be having a clear picture. Thank you.
Members, thank you for those questions. Yes, if you look at it lightly, it appears the nation is exporting power, depriving its citizens. That is not the true picture. The true picture is that we are an integrated unit with the Southern African power pool. The management has described the issues of power trading. We are not only receiving power from ZESCO, the power we're receiving from ZESCO, we already have a shortfall of 40%, which we are importing to meet the bulk suppliers or users in the country. With our partners in the global or in the regional markets, we are also receiving power from them, and we utilize our infrastructure to deliver that power where it is required. It's not that we are taking power out of Zambia into the DRC. All the power that is sold in the DRC is actually en route to the DRC, but our infrastructure is utilized. For you as a member, you must be focusing on what benefit you are getting by the regional power bodies supplying power to the DRC. That is the major item that we can take from there. I'll let any members of the top table reply to the issue of CEC renewables. You must be happy that we are growing the portfolio of energy. Previously, every bit of energy we generated, we sold, was brought into the CEC system, with an exception of where we utilized the gas turbines to generate power. Now CEC can, into the supply portfolio, utilize energy from CEC renewables for its sale into the industry. So we are not only buying in, we are also buying from CEC renewables. So CEC renewables becomes a very strong supporter and supplier to CEC. Anybody wanting to pick up the issue on the spend on the projects? And any of these other matters? CFO?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, on the cost of the projects, I'm assuming here that the projects being referred to are projects under CEC renewables, because that was sort of alluded to. So there are 3 projects that CEC renewables that CEC renewables has done to date, and there is 1 project which is currently underway. So the first project was the 1 megawatt, which was done just here at Riverside, and that project costed $1.6 million. And then the second project was the 33.4 megawatt, which was done adding to the total capacity of 34. That EPC price, the project cost was $22 million. And the last project, which was commissioned last year, which is 60 megawatts, was estimated at around $50 million. So those are the projects that have been undertaken. However, there is 1 project which is currently running, which is the 136 megawatt project, Itimpi 2, and the EPC price there is $74 million. Now, to put that into context, this money is not all coming from CEC PLC. I think I did mention that CEC Renewables has a listed bond to the tune of $200 million, and that in the first round, so the first 22 and 50 million, part of the money came from CEC PLC, and $54 million was gotten through a subscription of the bond. So when you add those 2 amounts, then you get $54 million coming from the lenders. So you see that the bulk of the money is coming from the lenders. The second tranche, again, we have raised $96 million from third parties. So the value from a CEC perspective is that when the company makes profits, then that profit accrues to CEC, who is the shareholder. Just like CEC PLC, if it makes a profit, The profit at CEC PLC accrues to the CEC shareholders. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so maybe just to add in terms of the company investments. So what you see is that at the moment, the company continues to invest a lot in Zambia. Most of our, or I should say our investments are really focused on Zambia because our largest market remains Zambia. Our network is in Zambia. When we take power to the DRC, we use the interconnection which emanates from Zambia. So even in terms of the transmission investments that we are talking about, most of those investments will still be in country. However, that doesn't mean that we are not looking at opportunities in the region, because the way these networks work, they are obviously interconnected. So if we remove a bottleneck in Zambia and we don't remove a bottleneck, for example, in the DRC to be able to take that power to where it's required, obviously we are not able to do that. So we'll support efforts for removing bottlenecks or establishing sources of power wherever they are required. I mean, you talked about the challenge of load shedding in Zambia today. There is quite a lot of power that has come from outside to support reducing the deficit in Zambia. And so it is important that we understand that investing in transmission in other countries benefits Zambia also, in as far as there could be sources that Zambia needs to access from other countries. So where that obviously supports moving power to wherever we've got a market at CEC, we will as a business support those projects. But in terms of the cake, today I think Zambia is almost close to 100% of the investments that CEC has made. The investment that we've made in DRC is relatively small for now, other than the investments that we've made in the interconnectors that have enabled the flow of our exports to that market. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and the top table. I now move to the chart. Sorry, we are moving to the chart. We are alternating. We'll come back to you and we will give you an opportunity. Chair, in terms of what we have received on the chart, there is a question from only identified as Maziase. The question is as follows. CEC is embarking on a solar power plant. Is it going to cut down thousands of trees in order to build this solar plant? Because that defeats the purpose. The next one is from someone only identified as EAZ. This one, Chair, is actually a commendation. It is as follows. I would like to commend the management team for a well-delivered business performance in 2024. That was a commendation. The next question is from Mr. I believe this is Mr. Arnold Kakunta. Arnold Kakunta. The question is as follows. In CEO's presentation, he indicated a reduction in the wheeling business in 2024 arising from reduced business with ZESCO. Are you considering IPPs for this business line? Since the third was a commendation, so perhaps I could go to the next question, Chair, which is as follows. Good afternoon, chairs. Sorry. Good afternoon, should have read chair, and others in attendance. Is there any collaboration being done between CEC and Bitcoin, who are in need of renewable energy for Bitcoin mining? I think that was the third question, Chair.
Thank you. Cutting down of trees in order to put up solar panels. In developing the projects, there are certain mitigating factors that we have to meet to ensure that we don't destroy the environment as we implement these projects. Yes, I agree with you. A lot of our developmental projects have to have vegetation removed, but we do maintain vegetation in the CEC area, except for that will be overhead. Below, we do maintain the vegetation. It's a question of a balancing act. We've seen the depletion of trees as an alternative source of energy because we don't have power. And then when we create the issue of alternative and renewable energy, the question comes up and say, but you're depleting the trees. We're trying as much as possible to reduce that impact so that tomorrow you are not using charcoal to the maximum. The more we can have renewable energy such as solar, the less trees will chop in terms of requiring power. In addition, we have had a program and will continue to have programs to enrich our environment. We talked in the past of planting 1 million trees, and that program is continuing because we want to actually be the first ones to ensure that as we generate revenue and services out of our environment, we are not the ones contributing to its destruction. So we have to strike a balance. And I think the balance that we strike by putting in solar as energy is much more beneficial than the other sources that we would actually have had. Thank you for the commendations. The reduction in power supplied by ZESCO, who are still our major supplier. Are we considering other independent power producers for the business? I think management will respond to that because we do have other independent power producers, both in country and outside country, that supply. And I didn't understand fully the question of Bitcoin. Somebody understood it on Bitcoin mining. Maybe management can respond to that.
Okay, I think first of all, starting with the question on we actually didn't say there is a reduction in terms of the supply from ZESCO. I think overall there is a reduction, in terms of how much power is available from the national generation sources. And that has led to the load shedding that we are seeing, but also it's led to the importation of power for both the domestic customers as well as the mining customers. So the importation of power is obviously something that's coming in to help close any gap in terms of power availability in the country, and this is done in a coordinated way. Now, the point that was made was the fact that we saw a reduction in the domestic wheeling segment of the business. Now, domestic wheeling is the power that we transport on behalf of ZESCO using our infrastructure, and this is then supplied mostly to the domestic and commercial customers. So that reduced, I think, in line with overall what's happening in the country, which is the load shedding. So that is not surprising. We should have expected that, and we did expect it. Are there IPPs in the country to try and fill in the gap from a supply side? I think any IPPs that are available in country are obviously contributing. Whatever power they have got, they're already contributing to the power that we are receiving with respect to any customer type. Are there new IPPs looking to develop power plants in future? Definitely. I mean, CEC Renewables is one of the IPPs. There are also other IPPs in the country that are working to develop projects. And from a CEC perspective, we are obviously interested in buying power, particularly baseload power at the moment. I think that's what's in short supply from whatever the source is, as long as it meets with our cost targets. In terms of the question on Bitcoin, I think the key issue there is obviously the energy requirements of the data centers, and I think there is growth in terms of the data centers around the world, and everybody's talking about the energy needs of these data centers. When you look at Zambia, we don't yet have an explosion of data centers, but it's true that as our data centers in the country grow with the economy, the demand on power is obviously going to increase. And from a CEC perspective, we need to be ready in terms of having the sources of power to use to supply that power, as well as the evacuation infrastructure required to deliver power to those load centers. I mean, it's not just data centers, the mining companies themselves, other businesses as well. So I think what we're hoping to see is to see growth overall in the economy, and energy is obviously a key driver of or enabler of that growth. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and the high table. We now come to the physical audience. I saw there were some hands at the back there.
Thank you. Musumali Felix is my name. With what the MD has ably elaborated, I will just go straight to speak. I would have asked the question, but he has, in the elaboration, he has answered just what he has spoken. The issue is concerning what we see as if that power, precious power, is bypassing us to the international market. With what the MD has said, I think it's clear that that which we carry is on behalf of ZESCO. ZESCO has a responsibility of the domestic, residential, and whatever they are. CEC is simply carrying a carrier, from what I've heard. And if that be so, truly, CEC is not part of that complex arrangement. It is around, we are all together as Zambians, we are talking about that matter, how that power is bypassing us. But I think for CEC, as the MD has elaborated clearly, that that is carried on behalf of ZESCO, then we can say that we are different from ZESCO. We are a company that is doing what we are doing. That's what I just wanted to say, for clarity of ourselves as citizens. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moila Chansa. I'm a member. I just wanted to find out from management if CEC has abandoned its plans to build a hydropower plant on the Luapula River. Because some time back you did a feasibility study where you had expressed interest to build a hydropower plant on the Luapula River. And then I also wanted to find out if there are any plans to reissue more ordinary shares to raise money from the market, or are you satisfied, or has your focus completely shifted to green bonds? Thank you.
Misengo Davis is my name, Chair. I would like to find out more about CEC Kapompo. What is the state? Because we had issues of the company failing to, the project continuing. And what is the situation now since the project started? Then second, I've seen on the share allocation there is a company called Fitula Solar Company. Where is it situated and what is happening to it? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, seeing that it wasn't quite a question from Mr. Somali, I think he was just expressing a view. Allow me, Chair, that we get, okay. I was going to say we are going to move to this side now.
Thank you very much. My name is Hante, representing Financial Insight Zambia.
So let's get your name again.
My name is Hante. Hante. Panda Kilima Hante. Yes, sir. Yes, thank you. Following the current power deficit that the country is experiencing, my question is, what technological advancements is CEC adopting to enhance power distribution efficiency? Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Lusungu Muntali. I'm a proxy for AFLife Managed Funds. And I have two questions. The first one is, you did touch on some of the CapEx plans that you have for 2025. I just wanted to find out if you're able to share the CapEx projections for 2025 in USD terms. And then the second question is on the green bond. I know there have been 2 tranches. Are there plans to have a third, and I'm assuming final, tranche that will be issued this year? Thank you.
Okay. Can we get last one, maybe this side?
My name is Makesa Kalifungwa, shareholder.
Sorry, just kindly go over your name again.
Makesa Kalifungwa, shareholder. I'd like to find out, it seems to me that CEC has made more profits than last year, and yet we are being paid less in dividends. I'd like to get more clarification on why that is so. I know it was said that, well, we had the debt write-off from KCM, but I feel like if we are doing expansion projects, we've already borrowed from the green bond, and we are making more profit. So I feel as shareholders, we need to get a little bit more. The number 2, when it comes to the solar panels, are we using the latest innovation, or we're still on the old solar panels? Because I'm meant to understand that there are new innovations which are less, when it comes to maintenance, they have less costs. So have we done a research to find out whether there's new solar panels that are more cost effective? Then when it comes to the planting of trees, where is our focus on the 1 million trees? Are we going to go near the hydro dams that we are drawing power from, or are we just going to plant anyhow? What's the strategy when it comes to planting those 1 million trees? Thank you.
Thank you. Chair.
Thank you for those questions. I'll re-emphasize a point that was made just as we began this meeting. Some of the questions that are asked, I would like to encourage the members to engage the CEC investments desk. Not only for those questions, but to also find out more about the company. Because if we continued with attending to those questions, which are quite important, we would actually be here for a much longer time. So do feel free to actually engage CEC management and the investment teams at any time in the year to get clarifications. That would help all of us a great deal. The first, which was just a comment, yes, and I certainly appreciate the way you put it. CEC has infrastructure on the Copperbelt through which we distribute power. In addition to that infrastructure are the highways into the DRC. Consider them as motorways or highways into the DRC. And that's the way we should actually look at it. It's for the benefit of our neighbors. It's the benefit, it benefits us as a country because we are able to tap in by using those highways. We'll take the following as financial questions. The share raising, issuing more shares to raise money. Then the CAPEX, the green bond, and the profit versus the dividend payments. With regards to the latest innovations, the board is very happy with the projects team and the management team for the works that they actually continue to do in the solar projects. Starting with 1 megawatts, 33 megawatts, which are just across here at Riverside. When you go to Ganaton, the panels there are 30% more efficient than the ones that were utilized in the Riverside project. So the management team continues to invest in the latest technologies and choose technology that benefits the company. Within just a period of 18 months to 2 years, you can see that they've stepped up the game and gone to a much more efficient panel, and they are continuously doing so. If you do visit them, there are much more projects that they are handling, not necessarily from the growth point of view, but from the efficiency side. This includes the power distribution efficiency, which was asked by Huntley. The team at CEC spent quite some resources in research and development, and this is where the backbone of the company actually lies. Can we take the, then the Fitula question. Fitula is a client of Copperbelt Energy Corporation, who have decided that besides receiving power from Copperbelt Energy Corporation, they needed to develop a solar plant. And the management has engaged them, and they are doing a joint project at a client site. This is not something that is new. We do work with customers in certain areas. To mention Dangote, who have a thermal plant, and they are connected through CEC. So when they are in need of power, CEC supplies, and in most times they have excess power. CEC actually picks up power from there for further distribution.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with the question on profits versus dividends. I think the question said that we made more money and declared less dividends. Why is it so? Can we declare a bit more? Now, based on the financials, that is the set that you have, you notice that in 2023, the dividends, the profitability of the company was around $136 million. So 2023, we've got a profitability of $136.7 million. The dividends that were paid in 2023 was $55.2 million. So 136, we paid 55, which gives a payout ratio of 40%. Now, if we come to this year, the profitability came down to $96.4 million. The dividends that were paid was 60.1. So if you look at the payout ratio, that was 62%. So there was a significant increase in terms of the payout ratio in relation to profitability, but there was also an increase, overall increase from $55 million to $60 million. Moving on to the
maybe just to support you on the dividend payout, I think it's also important that you look at the trends over the last 5 years. And they will show you that from a shareholder point of view, the payout of dividends have substantially increased. And as long as the business platform allows, CEC will pay out the dividends, but there has to be obviously the good performance. But if you examine it across the last 5 years, your dividend payment is quite substantial today than it was 5 years ago. And it's the intention in the strategic plan to continuously grow the shareholder value so that you, the shareholder, do receive more dividends as we proceed. But this is dependent on the conditions on the ground. You already know what the energy situation has been, and despite the energy situation being the way it is, CEC has still performed. So with all being equal, you certainly should be receiving more with the growth of the major clients, mining industry in Zambia, mining industry in DRC, and more energy being at the disposal of CEC.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the support. But maybe just to wind it down on this dividend point, to just make sure that the shareholders are well guided. The payment of dividend is, from a board perspective, guided by a dividend policy. Now, this dividend policy, you ideally find it on our website. And feel free to go to our website and you'll find this dividend policy. But what are the key things that are in the dividend policy guiding the dividend payment or distribution, essentially the company looks at 4-5 main things. The main issue is that there should be cash from which we should pay the dividend. So availability of cash becomes important. The second one is that from an accounting perspective, dividends are paid from what is called revenue reserves or distributable reserves. So you need to have sufficient distributable reserves from which we can pay. Now, having taken those two factors into consideration, then from a planning point of view, the business has to consider what sort of capital expenditure do we have, looking at our strategy. Secondly, if you have loans, what loan obligations do we have? But also, on a working capital basis, we need to make sure that when we collect the money, we are able to pay whoever is providing a service, whether it's someone providing us with power, it's employees, it's our taxes. So once we've taken that into account, then we say whatever remains, how much of this can be distributed to the shareholders. But please feel free to check on the website where we've got this dividend policy. The second question, through you, Chair, if I can also look at it. It was talking to green bonds. Do we have plans of coming back to market with the green bonds this year at CEC Renewables? The plan really, typically what we do is to try and undertake one project. Once we commission, then we start the next project. So what we anticipate in this case is that the construction period for Itimpi 2 should culminate in a commissioning early next year. And once we commission next year, it's only after that that we're likely to come to market to get the residue, the balance of almost $50 million that remains untapped under the 200 medium-term program under the green bond. Looking at another question, which was talking to financing, are we going to come to market to look for equity, whether it's a rights offer or anything of that sort? Now, that question speaks to our financing strategy. So if you look at the financials that have been tabled, you will notice that at the moment we've tried to ring-fence the debt in subsidiaries. So if you look at the company financials, because we've got two financials in here, you've got the company and you've got for the group. So if you look at the company financials, you will notice that there is no debt at CEC PLC. Now, typically, what you do when you are going to market to fundraise, before you raise equity, you start by raising debt, because debt is supposed to be cheaper than equity. So the strategy that we will adopt is that once we've leveraged up CEC with debt, it's only after that point that we will engage the board and the shareholders to see whether there is appetite for a rights offer or any other instrument that the shareholders can support to finance the projects. The last question, I was talking to the CAPEX, I think it's a CAPEX projection. What are we looking at over the next few years? Now, I know that the question wanted to look at what are we looking at in year one, but maybe let me give you a more of a broader type response, because projects, infrastructure projects, normally there are lapses and there are delays, and sometimes it's very difficult to fix that in one financial year. We believe that for the strategy period between now and 2027, we are essentially looking at a CAPEX program of about $500 million. Now, bear in mind that about 128 or $130 million of that on its own is going to Itimpitu. So you see that you are then reducing the 500 significantly to about 370, and then we've got capital expenditure at CEC PLC itself this year, and then there was talk of Get Fit, which might come this year into next year, which is the 25 megawatts, and the transmission bottleneck. So you see that the $500 million number is within reach, so to say, within the planning period that we are looking at. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just to emphasize that there are quite a number of projects that CEC is looking at, and obviously only the ones that have been fully actioned are brought here. I will let one of the members here comment on the Luapula and Kabompo projects.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of the CEC's interest in the two projects, I think it was rightly mentioned that at some point CEC did receive approval from the government to undertake pre-feasibility studies on the Luapula River, and we did that, and we did submit that report to government. From a sort of general interest perspective, the company still remains interested to develop some of the hydro potential on the Luapula River, and obviously if we did that, we would have to work with others who are interested in those projects. So we continue to maintain our interest in the Luapula River. On the Kabompo, I think we did report on this last year as well. So if you do remember, under the Get Fit program, two sort of sub-programs were supported by government. The first one was Get Fit Solar with 120 megawatts, and the Ganaton South project that we are talking about is part of that Get Fit Solar project. So these projects were discontinued at some point, after Zambia defaulted, and obviously as things have gotten better, these programs are beginning to come back. So Get Fit Solar has come back, and we have gone back to do the Ganaton South. Kabompo was submitted as one of the projects that CEC want to do under the Get Fit Small Hydro. So it was supposed to compete with other projects under that program. That program was also discontinued as a result that the default that happened in the country. There has been talk of that program coming back, so it's obviously waiting on the wings, and we continue to engage all those involved in that program. As soon as that program comes back, you will hear us talking about Kabompo again, and we are hopeful that it will make it under that program. So Kabompo is a 20 megawatt project. It's obviously not too big. It's in the sort of small hydro category, but we obviously want to do it under that program. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We come now to the tail end of our Q&A session, and we are turning now to the chat. The first question, Chair, it's actually a commendation. It reads as follows. My name is Bwalia Melu, a shareholder. I wish to add to my commendation and send congratulations to the Chair the entire executive team and staff. But I'm wondering what area of social responsibility the corporation will be investing in and adding its brand to the all-powerful soccer team. The next one is from Mr. Alan Kapoma. The question is as follows. Can you provide more details about the specific transmission projects CEC is looking at, as well as the thermal projects? When are they expected to be actualized? The next one has to do with Kabompo, Chair, which you have already handled. And this one also on the tree planting has been handled. This one from Mr. David Kaunda. I would like to have a comprehensive statement of the resolution on the encroachment along the CEC power lines, seeing the fact that the problem seems to grow every year, especially along the Chimwemwe, Rescourse, Kawama, Ganaton areas, where people have seriously taken a deaf ear to any caution from CEC management. What is the way forward? I would like to see a change in the situation. The next, probably the last one, I'm just quickly looking at the rest, Chair. They are similar to the questions that have gone before and which have been responded to. This one is on the open access. Is CEC worried about open access now that the playing field has been opened up to other players? How will this affect CEC's performance? What measures is CEC putting in not to be behind? Those are, Chair, that marks the last set of questions. The rest, as I said, are similar to the ones that have gone before, and those have been ably addressed.
Thank you. We'll start off with the encroachment one, and I would like to thank the members that certainly this is your company, and it's nice that you are vigilant and you do notice these things that happen. CEC is not spared from the issue of land encroachment, but our legal team has been able to be on the ground. The challenge is real, but there are certain solutions that the team has had, some of them through the courts, others with the municipalities and the cities that where our infrastructure and our land is. One must take note that we are on the Copperbelt, and there are 10 districts on the Copperbelt, with an exception of the rural ones. CEC has assets, mainly transmission and transformers, in almost all the towns on the Copperbelt. I'll let the company secretary shed some light on this, and also indicate how some of these challenges have been resolved.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair has rightly stated, we've taken various initiatives to try and deal with the issue of encroachments. It's not an easy one. Unfortunately, the Copperbelt, particularly Kitwe, is restrained with land. So what is going on is that any piece of land which is seen, people find it as an opportunity to expand themselves there. I think you'll remember for many years, we had this piece of land called Stand 3605, the one which goes between Parklands and Riverside, which many people, including local authorities and others, looked at as a possible areas for development, building residential areas and doing other developments there. We did indicate over time and time again that that land was very important in terms of expansion projects for CEC and future development, in particularly development of transmission lines. Some of it ended up being encroached, rightly so, along Chimwemwe, Buchi, Kwacha areas over the years. Much of that has been illegal allocations by the municipalities. We have to be honest, that's what has been happening. So people are being allocated land on CEC land, and they quickly build, and by the time we get through to some of these areas, we find structures have already gone up. In some instances, we've taken legal action. In some instances, we've issued notices. In some instances, we've been compelled to demolish. Now, demolishing is always the last resort. As you are aware, it could cause quite a bit of an upheaval if we suddenly started breaking up all these houses and structures. So we've worked with the local authorities more closely now. With Kitwe City Council, we have an MOU where we've agreed that they will actually enforce the protection of these areas where CEC's transmission lines are running through, or where we have way-live rights. Some of it has been adhered to, and the councils have been helpful, and in some instances we continue to have ongoing battles. We've also tried as much as possible to put markers along the transmission lines to ensure that people are aware where the CEC land actually commences and or ends. So it's not an easy, the solution is not one. The solution can only work if the various players and stakeholders, which is ourselves, the councils, and government itself, work together to try and find solutions. The solution is finding land, alternative land, and trying to move developments away, particularly the central areas like in Kitwe, and moving away. You have Kitwe, new Kitwe coming up, and those are some of the solutions. Kamfinsa, Chantente, and those areas probably will help. But so long everybody's concentrating on trying to get land around the central areas of Kitwe in particular, there's also a problem like that in Indola, then the encroachments will continue. We'll continue with our best efforts to try and ensure that we protect CEC's infrastructure and land rights, and continue to see that the company remains safe. But like I said, the challenges are great, and we need to work with others in order to find solutions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There was a question on corporate social responsibility of the company. We'll draw you to section 10 of the annual report. I think your answers are all there. Specific transmission lines and thermal power. Somebody to speak.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of the projects with respect to transmission infrastructure, I think broadly speaking, this is in a couple of categories. One has to do with the backbone of the network, supplying the various customers connected to our network. And so in this respect, we are expanding the backbone, particularly as it relates to supplying areas like like Ndola, Chingola, Chilabomboe, because there's growth that's taking place in those areas. Now, obviously, there's a number of transmission lines that need to be worked on in those areas, and so it's not helpful to start, mentioning the lines in a meeting like this. Otherwise, everybody needs to be sitting on the CC network and then trying to visualize what I'm talking about. But I think suffice to say this relates to upgrade of the backbone. And then the second category relates to expanding the capacity of either the interconnectors or the so-called central corridor in sort of broad terms. Because if you look at the Southern African power pool, the central corridor today is really the backbone in terms of trade as far as the SAP is concerned. So working as utilities in the SAP, we do need to look at how do we enhance the backbone to ensure that trade is not hampered by capacity constraints. So there's obviously a number of considerations in looking at the backbone itself, and in that respect, we need to work with others to achieve whatever expansion is required in the central corridor as a backbone to the SAP. Thank you. Well, in terms of thermal, I think one of the projects that we've brought to this meeting, and we did talk about this last year, was the conversion of our gas turbine alternators. Today they use diesel. We are trying to move them to gas. So we've actually commenced with our pilot project, which is a 10 megawatt project, where we are changing the fuel that this gas turbine uses. So from diesel to gas, as I said. Once this project is successful, then we're looking at expanding that. In terms of thermal, overall, what I was talking about was as Zambia looks to diversifying its sources, we obviously need to look at what are the low-hanging fruits to try and, as I said, close the deficit, but also expand the generation capacity. So the renewables obviously help. The renewables generally need to be supported by baseload. And there are various parties looking at developing, bringing in some of that thermal power. Whereas at CEC, we are not necessarily developing a thermal plant. We would obviously be willing to play a role in terms of expanding, as I said, the central corridor to ensure that that thermal plant can be evacuated to areas where demand needs to be met. So we have a role to play in that equation, whereas we are not necessarily developing new thermal plants ourselves. We know that there are parties that are working to add that diversity to the national mix. Thank you.
Let me thank the Director of Programs for handling the question and answer session. Once again, to the members, I know there are many questions. The board and management remain very open for you to engage. And as said earlier, please do not just wait for this forum. Do engage, and you'll be given the appropriate explanation or any information that you may need. We now move on. I call upon any member present to make a proposal for the adoption of the Director's report and financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2024, and call upon any other member present to second the proposal. Do we have a proposer?
We adopt the report. Musumali is my name. Thank you.
Just repeat your name.
Musumali Felix.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
Yes,
There's a hand here.
already here.
Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Martin Chitalu. I'm a shareholder. I second. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With the motion proposed and seconded, members can now proceed to vote on resolution number 2. Again, we'll pause for 3 minutes as you get engaged in the voting. As before, you may continue if you haven't completed voting, but we will now move on to resolution number 3. The third resolution on the agenda is the ratification of the dividend payment made on Monday, the 11th of November, 2024. I call upon any member present to make a proposal for the ratification of the dividend of the 2024 interim dividend of US cents 3.7 per share to the shareholders of the company. And this was made on the Monday, the 11th of November, 2024. And I call upon any other member present to second the proposal. Do we have a proposer and a seconder for that?
I, Chanda Henry Nshikita, do propose the ratification of the dividends which were paid on the November last year.
The name again?
Chanda Shikita.
Just Chanda Chishiwa.
Chanda Shikita.
Seconded by?
I'm Elijah Chukweni. I'm a member, and I second.
Thank you. That motion being duly proposed and seconded, members can now vote on resolution number 3. As you continue voting on resolution number 3, we'll now move on to the 4th resolution. The 4th resolution on the agenda is in relation to the appointment of the auditors of the company and the setting of their remuneration. I will now call upon the chairman of the audit committee of the board, Mr. Joe Mwansachisanga, to make a proposal in relation to the appointment of the auditors of the company for the ensuing year and to authorize the directors to set their remunerations. Mr. Chisanga.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members. I wish to inform members that Mrs. KPMG will retire as auditors of the company at this AGM. And now I wish to propose the appointment of Mrs. KPMG as auditors of the company for the ensuing year to hold office until the next annual general meeting of the company and to authorize the directors to set their remuneration. I call upon any member present to second this proposal.
Geoffrey Banda, shareholder. I second.
Thank you. Members can now proceed to vote on resolution number 4. As we continue voting, I'll now hand over the chairmanship of the meeting to Mr. Joe Mwansachisanga to attend to the adoption of resolutions number 5A and thereafter number 5B. Mr. Chisanga.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, members. I will move this resolution. I wish to inform the meeting that Mr. London Mwafulirwa and Dr. Patrick Nkanza were directors of the company who were appointed as directors at the last AGM will both retire at this meeting but are eligible for reappointment. I'll move resolution A. I wish to propose the appointment of Mr. London Mwafulirwa as director of the company to hold office until the next annual general meeting of the company at which he will retire. I call upon any member to second this proposal.
My name is Charles Lupia. I'm a shareholder. I second that Mr. London Mwafulirwa is appointed as a director. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call upon members to proceed to vote on resolution 5A. I will pause for a little while. Members, I will continue. I'm making a resolution B. I wish to propose the appointment of Dr. Patrick Nkanza as director of the company to hold office until the next annual general meeting of the company at which he will retire. I now call upon any member to second this proposal.
My name is Godfrey Mwisha, shareholder. I second the appointment of Dr. Patrick Nkanza as director.
Thank you. I invite members to proceed to vote on resolution 5B. Members, I will proceed. I will now hand over the chairmanship of the meeting back to the chairman, Mr. London Mwafulirwa. Mr. Chairman, sir.
Thank you, Director Sanga. We are moving on to the sixth resolution on the agenda, which is the adjustment of the director's remuneration, which will be presented by the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Mutale Mukuka. Mr. Mukuka.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Once again, I wish to propose a 3% increase in the remuneration of the director's compensation, and therefore call upon any member to second the proposal. Thank you.
My name is Chongo Mkupa. I'm a shareholder. I second.
You may now proceed to vote on resolution number 6. COPSAVE, when you are ready, please give us a signal.
Thank you, Chair. Shareholders, we have noticed that a bulk of the votes are in. Just by way of checking, are there any shareholders in here who are still yet to vote before we deliver the results to the Chair? Okay, thank you.
Members, good afternoon. I now wish to announce the results of the vote, which has been beamed on the screen as follows. Number 1, the minutes of the annual general meeting has received 100%. Number 2, the directors and financial report has 100%. We seem to have a challenge with the technology. Okay, we are back. Number 3, which is the ratification of the dividend, that's 100%. Number 4, the appointment of the auditors, 99.9%, 99.99%. The appointment of Director London Mwafulilwa, 99.99. The appointment of Dr. Patrick Nkanza as the Director, 98.89. And the directors, increasing of the directors' remuneration by 3%, 99.96. So all the 6 resolutions have been passed. Thank you very much for your participation. I now declare the 27th Annual General Meeting of the Copperbelt Energy Corporation closed. I wish to thank the CEC management and everyone involved in the preparations of this annual general meeting for the successful meeting. Finally, I thank you, the shareholders, for attending the meeting both in person and virtually, and for the valuable deliberations and active participation shown at this annual general meeting. May God bless you and your families. Thank you.
Before we leave, ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome to lunch and some refreshments that are going to be served on the grounds over there. And again, in order to efficiently manage this process, our ushers have little coupons which they are going to hand over to you, and that is the one that you are going to use in order to take your meal. So we just ask that we move orderly. The ushers are at the back there, so as we move out of the hall, please remember to just pick up your coupon, and that's the one that you're going to use to get your meal and your refreshments. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. God bless you.